Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my daily video blog. This is day 21 of the blog, and around my home, we've been physically distancing for 65 days. Here in Missouri, 21 feels like a big number. We may need to pour the blog a drink. Yesterday, I had a day of meeting collaboration between the Council of 12 and the Council of Presidents of 70, focused on sharing experiences with online ministry and gatherings. There were a few horror stories, but so much that is overwhelmingly positive. And there's such potential for us to not just perfect the art of copying an 80-year-old worship format online, but to really discover new ways of being, of engagement, of spiritual formation and relationship, of truly being community of Christ for this day and age. Could it be that this crisis nudges us into really examining what we do when we're together and why, and that we'll explore new depths of meaning in this time of pandemic? Today's daily prayer for peace country is Uganda. Now, I know some of you can still say that country name without adding the words like the Lion King, and without singing the name with a little Donny Osmond flair. I guess it's a little risky bringing up the Book of Mormon musical, but whenever my Broadway fan kids are listening to that show, I find myself remembering Uganda, and remembering my conversation with David Lloyd, and him astutely observing that in many ways, the story of reinventing, or at least reinterpreting the restoration story portrayed in that show is like the community of Christ story. You may certainly remember other less pop culture-y things when you think about Uganda, but today as we pray for peace, remember Uganda and remember that there's a world out there. Tiona has another book recommendation ready for us. The book is called I Wish You All the Best. Try that again. I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, published in 2019 by Push. Tiona says that they found out about this book in searching for more books with LGBT characters. Not counting Rick Riordan books, Tiona's only read like 3 books that did. So from Saturday to Monday, they listened to this book while crocheting. Tiona couldn't stop listening to it. It was super good. So after finishing one crochet project on Sunday, Tiona went directly into another crochet project because of wanting to keep listening to the book and because of loving crocheting. The book is about a non-binary teenager who at the very beginning of the book gets kicked out of the house because they came out to their parents. They went to live with their older sister, who's like 10 years older and lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. They hadn't seen each other at all since Hannah had moved out 10 years before. They had to start going to the school that their brother-in-law teaches at. This was their last semester before graduating, and they had to make new friends and everything. So from what I've just said, says Tiona, you might think that this is a sad and horrible book. Well, not horrible, because why would I be recommending a horrible book? But really, there are just a few sad parts, or like 2, and mostly happy parts. And I love the ending, and there's lots of romance, and basically it's just a really awesome book. This is like my favorite book currently, says Tiona. Tiona says, it's a good book for you to learn a little about non-binary kids. There are 2 non-binary kids in the book, the main character and the main character's best friend from before the movie. Before the move. That friend is also Muslim. Another friend is African American. So Tiona says, I like the diversity of characters in the book in general. I got this book, says Tiona, on Libby, an app for getting ebooks and audiobooks from the library. I think some library systems use Hoopla, and I think I've heard Canadian friends talking about that, but library apps are great to have right now. Okay, thank you, Tiona, for the book recommendation. It is now time for my daily check-in with someone from somewhere in the world that I serve in my work with Community of Christ. I feel like I'm kind of crossing field lines just a little with today's check-in, Since today I'm reporting on my conversation with a friend in Honduras, the thing is, Al Wygood is from Kitchener, Ontario, Canada congregation, but he spends a lot of his life in Orconcitos near Lago de Yohoa in Santa Barbara, Honduras. It's become a bit of a joke for us that every day when Tiona sits down to give me a book recommendation, the first words of the review are always, "This is a really good book." To which I say, "Good," because I don't want you to recommend any books that aren't really good. Similarly, I suppose you might get tired of me telling you that this or that person is amazing. But folks, Al Wygood is amazing. He turned 90 years old in January, and he's still leading teams to build schools and to travel rural Honduras for Canada's World Accord in partnership with Honduras's program for rural reconstruction. They are all about helping the most vulnerable. Al told me about an experience he had on a mountainside years ago. Terry Fielder had invited him to come to Honduras on a site visit with World Accord in 1989. In that mountainous experience, Al felt the purpose of his life changing. He returned home to Canada and shared his experience with his wife, and she said, "You're going to have to go back." Al's wife has passed away now, but she supported him in his ministry faithfully for years and years. Al says that was the greatest blessing. I reached Al via WhatsApp on his flip phone after his day at work cleaning grain. Al says, "That's a job they've given me while I'm here on quarantine just to keep me busy." Our call dropped once, and Al apologized, saying that he's afraid his phone has been damaged with all his sweating on it. When I came back from Haiti and started working from home, Al was hosting a group of volunteers from Canada who were building a school in Honduras. They didn't quite get the roof on when the lockdown started, and they couldn't go to the site anymore. That will be the 49th school Al's been involved in building in rural Honduras. Al gave me an update on coronavirus in Honduras. He says most of the cases are in the north, some 2,000 cases in all. The numbers have been spiking lately, but there are only 14 cases in the department where Al is. Still, everyone is on lockdown. People can only go out every 9 days for supplies, based on the last number of their residency card. This has been hard on some in the rural areas, and Al and others have been putting together 300 food kits for the 40 isolated villages Al works in. Al says the government came through with some food relief, but that was a while ago and not enough. But the people here, Al says, honest to Pete, they're survivors. They came through Hurricane Mitch, where 3,000 were killed and 2,000 were never found. When the volunteers left in March, Al decided he'd be safer in Honduras than in Canada, so just stayed. He says he'll probably go back to Canada if things relax a little in June or July. His appointment to get his cataracts taken out was canceled, so there's no rush for that, but he'll be running out of some medications. As we talked, Al reflected on how much of a difference has been made in Honduras over the years. Al feels that there's nothing he could have gotten involved in Canada that would have made this much of a difference. The program for rural reconstruction is producing such high-quality grain now, and enough to support even the south of the country with seed during the drought they've been having. The quality of life in the villages has gone way up with better schools and education. There's a new young director at PRR, and the board is the best it's ever been in Al's estimation. Al says, I don't know if people realize the difference World Accord and PRR have made. You can tell Al is grateful for donor support. One story Al shared will stick with me a long time. Al tells how a few years back he had met a widow lady whose house was fallen down in Monte de Dios. Al says, I went back to Canada with the thought that I would build her a little house. And when I got back to Honduras, we got started. She kept coming up while we were working on it. She kept saying, no tengo dinero, which means I don't have any money. Al would kid her, don't worry, I'm just spending my kid's inheritance. On the last day, she came over, she got down on one knee, and she took off her wedding ring. It was the only thing she had of value, and she presented it to Al. Al says, and I've had so many experiences like this over the years. You could hear the birds chirping and the kids playing in the background as I visited with Al. I was imagining sitting there on the steps with him in the little village of Orconcitos, right next to the church campground at La Buena Fe. I am so glad I got to check in with Al. Okay, it's about time for our big daily announcement. Da 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 da. Now in this moment, now in this day. But the question is, what day is today? Wait for it. Today is Wednesday.
Yay, Wednesday!
Yay, Wednesday. That's miércoles for Honduras, for Al down in Honduras. Friends, I'm going to put a link to the World Accord website in the description. If you are able to support their amazing work and want to support a network of great partners around the world, that would be wonderful. You know, charities are all struggling a bit right now, like the church, and some of you may be interested in supporting World Accord. Some of you also may be interested in an online event that World Accord will be sponsoring via Facebook on the 23rd and 24th of May. Normally every year, World Accord hosts a Fast-a-thon fundraiser around that weekend at one of our campgrounds in Canada East Mission Center. It's not possible to do that this year, but it sounds like they're putting together something really cool in its place. They're calling it a Virtual Global Solidarity Conference with short videos and live presentations. There will be updates and presentations on sustainability, construction expeditions, building a tiny house, and more. So please stay tuned to World Accord's Facebook page for details. They're not intending this to be a fundraising event per se, but they will have a donation button available on some of their Facebook pages so people can donate if they feel so moved. Additionally, World Accord is looking into other virtual events like a possible virtual gala or online fundraising auction. And if people are interested and willing to help with these, or if you have other possible ideas, you could contact David Barth, the Executive Director of World Accord. I'll put links to the Facebook page and David's email address in the description. Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you much longer than that. I'm hoping to be back again tomorrow with another What Day is Today video blog. Again tomorrow, I'll remind you of the Daily Prayer for Peace Country of the Day. Tiona will probably have another book recommendation, and I'm looking forward to reporting on another check-in with another person to update you on how they're doing. And by the way, just yesterday afternoon, a fun opportunity came across my desk via Mary Jean Belrose's Canada East What's Happening email. I noticed that the Bill McMurray residence is looking for volunteers to write letters to their residents. I was telling you about the program on day 14 of the blog. I'll put information on that in the comments. Okay, I'm signing off for now from my home in Independence, Missouri. Please, until tomorrow, remember to breathe.